My friends, today I want to share with you an expanded and refined explanation of an advanced accelerated learning technique based on the remarkable Jose Silva Method. If you haven't yet familiarized yourself with this extraordinary system of mind development, I strongly encourage you to explore the Silva Method playlist, beginning right from the very first lesson after you finish watching this video. You'll find the link conveniently placed in the description below. In that playlist, I've gathered for you the complete foundation and conceptual legacy left to humanity by this true pioneer of mental training and consciousness development, a man whose ideas about the mind's potential continue to transform lives across the globe. And the best part? It's absolutely free. Jose Silva never pursued commercial success for its own sake. Throughout his life, his deepest motivation was not profit, but rather a genuine wish to help people everywhere awaken to the hidden abilities of their own minds, the ability to influence reality itself through disciplined awareness and imagination. Today, we'll take a thoughtful and detailed look at an advanced accelerated learning technique grounded in his method. Before we go deeper, it's essential to recognize one key point. The Silva Method is not merely a random assortment of relaxation tricks or a set of wish fulfillment rituals, as many who encounter scattered or superficial information might assume. Instead, it is a coherent and scientifically inspired system, a comprehensive philosophy of mental functioning designed to unlock the immense, often unused potential that resides within every human mind. Among its most practical and empowering tools is a process known as accelerated learning. This is what we will be exploring today in both theory and practice. The essence of this technique lies in making deliberate use of the brain's alpha state, a calm, centered, deeply relaxed, yet highly receptive level of consciousness. In this state, the mind becomes far more efficient at absorbing, organizing, and retaining new information, much like fertile soil that easily nourishes the seeds planted within it. So how does this process actually work in daily life? The procedure can be divided into several clear stages. The first step is learning to enter a meditative state, a mental condition of ease, quiet focus, and gentle detachment from external distractions. We already practiced this fundamental skill in the very first lesson of the Silva Method, which you can revisit in the playlist if you need a reminder. Once you've reached that calm inner level, the next step is to create what Silva called a mental screen. A mental screen is essentially an inner visualization field, a kind of mental cinema screen, where you can clearly imagine the events, images, or goals you wish to manifest, or, in this case, the information you wish to remember. The screen gives your mind a focal point. It organizes the abstract into the visible, transforming mental energy into a directed creative force. Finally, we make use of one of Silva's simplest yet most powerful tools, the three-finger technique. This small gesture acts as a psychological anchor, allowing you to return to the desired alpha state almost instantly. It also helps you recall information, maintain concentration, or even embody specific personality traits or abilities that you wish to express in a given moment. The three-finger technique, though deceptively simple, is a cornerstone of Silva's mind control practice, a bridge between conscious intention and subconscious performance. If you've already tried it, you probably know how effective it can be. You simply bring together the tips of your thumb, index finger, and middle finger on either hand. When this gesture has been properly conditioned during your training, Touching these three fingers together automatically signals your nervous system to re-enter the alpha state. Almost immediately, you feel yourself calming down, focusing more sharply, and opening to intuitive insight. This physiological-psychological link becomes a rapid pathway to relaxation, mental clarity, and heightened receptivity. By using the same gesture consistently, you create a deeply ingrained association that allows you to return to this productive state at will. Whether you're preparing for a presentation, studying for an exam, or simply needing to think clearly under pressure. With practice, you'll find that forming the three-finger gesture is enough to help you slip naturally and almost instantaneously into the alpha state, the zone of inner stillness and outer awareness that makes accelerated learning possible. The main reason Silva emphasized creating such an anchor is simple. In our fast-paced world, we often don't have the luxury of spending 20 minutes calming down before focusing. This gesture lets you tune your brain instantly to the frequency best suited for any mental task, bypassing lengthy relaxation rituals. It's like having a shortcut key for the mind. However, it's important to remember that the alpha state cannot coexist with stress, anxiety, or negative inner dialogue. If your body is tense and your thoughts are turbulent, your brain naturally remains in the beta state, the active, problem-solving mode associated with external awareness. Imagine, for example, a student sitting for an important exam, feeling nervous and unable to recall studied material. By simply joining the three fingers together, the student sends a clear signal to the brain and body. It's safe now. You can relax. This sense of security allows the nervous system to deactivate its defense responses and opens the subconscious channels where stored information resides. Even if the student has only skimmed the material a few times before, without deeply memorizing it, the act of entering the alpha state through this gesture enables the brain to retrieve data far more easily and quickly than it ever could through tense, effortful recall. For example, one student who diligently practiced the Silva Method shared that she had struggled for a long time to memorize foreign vocabulary. No matter how much time she spent reading, repeating, or writing new words, they just wouldn't stick. But once she began applying the three-finger technique, the results changed dramatically. She noticed that her concentration improved, her mental fatigue disappeared, and memorization became almost effortless. What once required hours of repetition now took minutes. Words she had struggled with before came naturally, as if her mind itself had decided to cooperate with her learning goals. There's also a remarkable story from a young professor who incorporated the same technique into his teaching routine. Each time he prepared to give a lecture, he would enter a meditative alpha state using the three-finger gesture. Soon, he noticed something astonishing. His lectures became smoother, more dynamic, and much more engaging. His students were suddenly more interested, attending classes more regularly, and even performing better on their exams. They participated actively in discussions, asked insightful questions, and seemed to enjoy learning again. Naturally, this also had a positive impact on the professor's own academic reputation. Interestingly, none of the students knew about the technique, or even suspected that their professor was using a mental training method during his classes. It was his private tool, a quiet secret between him and his own subconscious. As he himself later explained, every time he used the gesture, it felt as if he became a different person, calm, confident, eloquent, and charismatic. The three-finger technique allowed him to instantly step into the role of a confident public speaker and a beloved mentor. He no longer had to rely heavily on his notes, worrying about what to say next or how to phrase each point. Instead, his delivery became fluid, expressive, and emotionally rich. He would spontaneously come up with vivid examples, anecdotes, and illustrations perfectly suited to his topic, ideas that seemed to surface effortlessly from the depths of his subconscious mind. He later revealed that before each lecture, he would use the mental screen technique to visualize the scene in detail. The students' attentive faces, their enthusiastic responses, the energy of interest and connection filling the room. And incredibly, those visualizations began to come true exactly as he had imagined them. Within a surprisingly short time, this once modest and reserved academic became one of the most admired and sought-after professors at his university. Now, perhaps your personal goal isn't to become a favorite professor or a public speaker, but think for a moment about the countless life situations where this simple yet powerful technique could prove useful. Whether you're preparing for a job interview, giving a presentation, learning a new skill, or even just trying to stay calm during a stressful conversation, the ability to instantly return to the alpha state can change everything. We discussed the three-finger technique in more depth in the previous lesson, which, as a reminder, can be found in the Silva Method playlist linked in the description below this video. If you haven't yet explored it, I highly recommend you do. It forms the foundation for the more advanced techniques we'll be discussing today. Now let's move on to one of Jose Silva's most fascinating discoveries: the use of recorded speech, originally tape recordings, and now, of course, digital audio, to accelerate learning and comprehension. This method perfectly complements the alpha training process. Back in Silva's time, when cassette recorders were the primary tool for personal audio, students were encouraged to record themselves reading the material they wanted to learn. Today, it's even simpler. You can use the voice recorder app on your phone. The concept is both elegant and practical. You record the text or material you need to memorize in your own voice, then listen to it while in the alpha state. This practice leverages your subconscious mind's heightened receptivity during relaxation, allowing the material to be absorbed and retained with far less effort. Let's look at the sequence step by step. Suppose you need to master a particularly difficult section of a textbook. Not just memorize it, but truly understand and internalize it so that you can later explain or apply it. The process unfolds as follows. First, remain in your ordinary waking state, the beta state, and carefully read the material aloud, recording it on your phone or another device. At this stage, your goal is to articulate the information clearly, calmly, and meaningfully. Then, once you've finished recording, enter your meditative alpha state. After reaching alpha, play back your recording and focus on your own voice speaking the material. This combination of auditory input and relaxed mental receptivity activates both hemispheres of the brain, creating an ideal environment for deep learning. The algorithm, in its simplest form, can be summarized as read, record, relax, listen. Jose Silva himself offered several important recommendations for this process, but also noted a few potential challenges. One common difficulty for beginners, he observed, occurs when they open their eyes to press the play button on their recorder. The simple act of shifting focus to the external world often pulls them back into the beta state, interrupting the flow of relaxation and making it harder to sustain alpha level awareness. While the recording plays, they might find themselves thinking, "Am I still in alpha? Should I try to go deeper?" And meanwhile, the material they're supposed to be learning continues to pass by unheard. Naturally, such a situation is not ideal for deep meditative absorption. By the time the learner manages to re-establish the desired mental state, much of the recording, or even the entire lesson, might have already played through, diminishing the effectiveness of the exercise. Silva, always the practical innovator, proposed a few clever ways to address this. His first suggestion was to prepare in advance. Enter the alpha state while already resting your finger lightly on the play button so you wouldn't need to open your eyes. However, he acknowledged that this setup could also cause a subtle form of tension, since part of your mind remains focused on the anticipation of pressing that button at exactly the right time. Even a small residue of muscular alertness can interfere with the deeper relaxation required for pure alpha. His second suggestion was to enlist the help of a trusted person, a family member, friend, or partner, who could start the playback on your signal. While this can work for some, Silva himself admitted that for many people, it's neither practical nor comfortable. After all, not everyone has the kind of trusting, open relationship where you can casually ask someone to sit beside you while you meditate and study. And even if you do, the mere presence of another person silently watching you can create subconscious tension that prevents full relaxation. The third option Silva offered was to simply rely on the three-finger technique to re-enter alpha immediately after pressing play. This is effective once the association between the gesture and the state is strong enough. Yet despite Silva's genius, there was one additional refinement that he did not mention, which seems wonderfully obvious to many of us today. Instead of struggling with timing, you can pre-record a short relaxation segment before your study material. Include, for example, 5 minutes of soothing background music, or even the traditional Silva countdown, from 100 down to 1, followed by a few seconds of silence before the actual lesson begins. This simple preparation gives you ample time to settle comfortably into alpha without being startled by the sudden onset of your recorded voice. Once the material starts playing, you're already in the ideal state of mental readiness to receive and integrate it. As your practice deepens, you'll notice something truly remarkable. You no longer need to fall into a semi-sleeping trance or close your eyes completely to enter the alpha state. With consistent training and the habitual use of the three-finger technique, your brain begins to recognize and respond instantly to the cues you've established. You can remain fully awake, alert, and even speak or perform in front of an audience while still maintaining that calm, balanced, and receptive inner frequency. This was demonstrated in Jose Silva's own experiments. He conducted a series of brainwave studies on students who had practiced the Silva Method consistently over time. The results were astonishing. When these trained individuals brought their 3 fingers together, their EEG readings immediately shifted into alpha frequencies, even though outwardly they appeared completely awake and active. This meant that the simple gesture had become a direct neurological switch, enabling them to access the full potential of the brain and connect consciously with the vast resources of the subconscious mind. This phenomenon isn't just theoretical, it has practical implications in every area of life. When you can harness alpha awareness at will, your creativity expands, your intuition sharpens, and your ability to process and remember information increases dramatically. Now, let's return to the technique involving recorded material. Once you've listened to your recorded lesson in the alpha state, Silva recommended taking a deliberate break before revisiting it. Ideally, this break should last 1 or 2 days, though even a few hours can help. During this period, you should do something completely different, something that requires minimal intellectual effort, such as going for a walk, cooking, gardening, or sketching. This mental downtime allows your subconscious mind to integrate and organize the information without interference. After the break, return to the material. First, review it again in your ordinary beta state, reading consciously and attentively. Then, listen to your recording once more in alpha. This cycle, study, relax, listen, rest, review, and listen again, creates a powerful feedback loop that solidifies learning on both conscious and subconscious levels. When you think about it, this process makes perfect sense. It reflects how our brains naturally learn best, through exposure, rest, and reinforcement. Instead of cramming or forcing memory through tension, the Silva approach transforms learning into an organic, enjoyable process. You consciously read and understand the material. You record it in your own voice, thus reinforcing comprehension. And then, in alpha, you listen again, allowing the mind to absorb it at a deeper level. Many practitioners find that even a single round of this cycle is enough to produce lasting retention, especially when visualization is added. Imagine yourself projecting the information you're hearing onto your mental screen, seeing it as vivid images or symbolic representations. This engages both hemispheres of the brain, the analytical left and the creative right, creating a comprehensive mental imprint. These accelerated learning techniques, particularly when combined with the three-finger anchor, have become invaluable for Silva Method graduates across countless professions. They're not just tools for students. They're practical strategies for anyone whose work involves processing or communicating information. For instance, consider an insurance agent who once found himself fumbling through thick stacks of documents during meetings with clients. After adopting Silva's accelerated learning method, he no longer needed to pause and search for details. The necessary facts and figures seemed to come to him effortlessly, precisely when he needed them. His confidence grew, his conversations flowed naturally, and his clients trusted him more than ever, because he appeared both knowledgeable and at ease. Another practitioner, an attorney, used to rely heavily on notes when addressing juries. Preparing and rehearsing his closing arguments would take hours, and he often worried about forgetting key points. After discovering Silva's method, he decided to pre-record his speech and listen to it in the alpha state the night before trial, and again the morning of his presentation. The transformation was remarkable. When he finally stood before the jury, he spoke with newfound assurance. His words flowed smoothly, his logic felt effortless, and he maintained strong eye contact with the jurors, something he had rarely done before. He no longer appeared to be reading or reciting. He was communicating, and the results were tangible. His speeches became more persuasive, emotionally resonant, and ultimately more successful in court. Interestingly, during those speeches, he would discreetly bring the fingers of his left hand together, forming the familiar three-finger mudra. No one noticed, but internally it acted as a trigger, keeping him calm, focused, and in control. There's also the story of a New York stand-up comedian who specialized in political and social commentary based on current events. His act changed every single day, requiring him to memorize and deliver completely new material each evening. This constant turnover used to cause tremendous stress. But once he began recording his daily monologues and listening to them in the alpha state before performances, often just an hour before showtime, everything changed. With 3 fingers subtly joined as he stood under the spotlight, he delivered 20 minutes of sharp, spontaneous, and hilarious commentary. The jokes flowed effortlessly. The audience roared. He later admitted that, for the first time in his career, performing felt less like work and more like channeling inspiration. Of course, accelerated learning and the 3-finger technique are ideal not just for professionals, but for students of all ages. During Jose Silva's lifetime, mind control courses based on his teachings were even integrated into educational programs, from elementary schools to universities. The results were extraordinary. Thousands of students began achieving better grades while spending less time studying. Teachers reported that children became calmer, more focused, and more creative. Many even showed improvements in behavior and emotional balance. Imagine what a gift this can be for modern families. Parents and children alike can benefit tremendously from learning these techniques together. Instead of battling over homework or cramming before exams, they can transform learning into an enjoyable, relaxed, and cooperative experience. Parents save time and nerves. Children gain confidence and independence. If your work or studies involve memorizing information, whether you're a teacher, a trainer, a speaker, a blogger, a YouTuber, an expert, or especially a student, I encourage you to conduct your own experiment. Combine the voice recorder technique with the 3-finger anchor, practice regularly, and observe the results. You might not notice dramatic changes after the first attempt, especially if you haven't practiced entering the alpha state before. But remember this: millions of people around the world have already confirmed the effectiveness of these methods. With persistence, your brain will learn to associate the specific sequence of actions, recording, relaxing, listening, and gesturing, with rapid, effortless learning. Over time, this becomes an automatic habit, a mental reflex that activates your highest cognitive potential. And so, as you continue to practice, something subtle yet profound begins to happen. Your entire relationship with learning and memory starts to shift. The process no longer feels mechanical or forced. It becomes organic, almost intuitive. Instead of struggling to retain facts, you begin to understand them deeply, effortlessly, connecting ideas and patterns. It's as if the subconscious mind, long neglected by traditional education, finally wakes up and joins the conscious mind in a beautiful partnership. Jose Silva often said that intelligence is not merely about knowledge or analytical reasoning. It's about the ability to use the full potential of the mind, both conscious and subconscious, in harmony. He believed that the alpha state is the natural bridge between these two realms. When you operate from this level, your thinking becomes more holistic, creative, and insightful. You begin to see solutions instead of problems, opportunities instead of obstacles. In this sense, the Silva Method isn't just a collection of techniques. It's a philosophy of mental freedom. It teaches you that your mind is not limited by the constraints of ordinary awareness, and that by learning to guide it, you can shape not only your intellect, but also your emotional and spiritual well-being. Jose Silva himself was a vivid example of this principle in action. He was not a university-trained scientist or psychologist. He was an ordinary man driven by a deep curiosity about human potential. Yet, through observation, experimentation, and intuition, he uncovered insights that would later be confirmed by neuroscience decades after his passing. One night, after years of teaching his methods to thousands of students, Silva had a dream that he often described as both humbling and enlightening. In the dream, he saw countless lights scattered across the earth, tiny points of radiance glowing in the darkness. Each light, he realized, represented a person who had learned to use their mind consciously, who had discovered the power of the alpha state and the peace it brings. Together, these lights formed a vast network, a web of human awareness brightening the planet. When he awoke, he understood the dream's meaning. Every person who learns to think and act from a higher level of consciousness contributes to the awakening of humanity as a whole. Each individual transformation adds to a collective evolution of the species. It was never just about studying faster or improving grades. It was about creating a more peaceful, intelligent, and compassionate world. That vision remains deeply relevant today. In a time when so many people feel overwhelmed, anxious, and disconnected, the ability to quiet the mind and focus inward is not a luxury. It's a necessity. The alpha state is not an escape from reality. It's a way to engage with reality more clearly and effectively. So, if you're hearing about the Silva Method for the first time, or if you've been practicing for a while and want to go deeper, I invite you to treat this as the beginning of a long and rewarding journey. Don't rush it. Take your time. Experiment with the techniques. Record your own lessons. Enter the alpha state, and notice the gradual, beautiful changes that start to unfold in your daily life. You might begin to notice that your memory sharpens, your intuition guides you more accurately, and your communication with others becomes calmer and more authentic. You may find yourself handling stress with newfound ease, or coming up with creative solutions seemingly out of nowhere. These are not coincidences. They're signs that your mind and body are beginning to operate in greater harmony. Remember, the three-finger technique, the use of recorded material, and the alpha state are not isolated exercises. Together, they form a powerful system that can help you unlock your natural genius. But like any skill, it grows stronger with consistent practice. Each session builds upon the last, forming new neural pathways and reinforcing your ability to enter the alpha state effortlessly, at will. And one day, perhaps sooner than you expect, you'll realize that the boundary between meditation and everyday life has disappeared. You'll be living consciously, thinking clearly, and acting purposefully, naturally tuned to the rhythm of your higher self. If you've enjoyed exploring this lesson and you'd like to continue developing your mental abilities, be sure to watch the other videos in the Silva Method playlist. You'll find guided practices, explanations of deeper levels of mind control, and inspiring real-life stories of people who've transformed their lives through these methods. And if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, now is the perfect moment to do so. By subscribing and turning on notifications, you'll ensure that you never miss a new lesson or guided session. Together, we can continue to expand the circle of conscious, awake minds, one light at a time. Because ultimately, that was Jose Silva's dream, a world illuminated by people who understand the true power of their own consciousness, people who live not from fear or limitation, but from awareness, creativity, and love. So take a deep breath. Bring your three fingers together. Feel that calm focus awakening inside you. You have everything you need. within you right now. And the more you practice, the brighter your inner light will shine, guiding not only yourself, but those around you as well. And of course, we'd really appreciate your like below this video. See you very soon, and all the best from the Worldwide Miracles channel.